So I'm in the process of donating my entire theological library to a seminary. And yesterday I went to the place where my library is. It's beautiful, and needed to sort through some of the books to just so that the person who's boxing everything up and sending them would know what to send. And there I came across some volumes that are very precious to me and personal, and I have in my hands a copy of Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer. As a young Christian, this book was hugely encouraging and hugely influential to me. I think it's a Christian classic. But what's special about this volume is that it was presented to my father in 1948. If you're keeping track, that's 2 years before I was born, by A.W. Tozer, who actually signed the book. And it reminded me of my own Christian heritage, that these were the influences on my parents. I've shared this before. My family was not an ideal Christian family. There were real struggles inside of the house. But God was, through these influences, claiming me as his own long before I ever knew what was going on, and exposing me to the deepest riches, elements of our faith. This book is the glory of God all over the place. I don't know how you can read this book without just falling in love in a new way with the Lord. And so I'm aware of God's grace in my life long before I could have ever talked about that grace or defined what it meant, that these are these influences planted in my life. And so I love this book for its content, but maybe I love it more for what it represents of God's work in my family and in my life, that by his grace from earliest moments, a view of life that had God in the center was my view of life. And it's been a journey my entire life to understand the full implications of that, which I'm still understanding, but I'm incredibly thankful. And I want to say again how important it is to be more committed to counting your blessings than numbering your complaints. You know, I can remember times when I was counseling a couple and they would basically tell me their sad story in a way that was godless. I mean, there was no God in their story. And I would see God here and God there and God over here. And I felt like my job was to be a spiritual tour guide, to walk them back through their life and say, look at the presence of God here. Look at what God exposed you to here. Look for his faithfulness here. Look for his provision here. So it'd be impossible, without discounting the hard things in their life, for them to look at their life without seeing the hand of God in their life, that they just could not look at their lives without seeing God's presence and his power, his provision, and his grace. And so this book helps me to do the same, to remember I have untold blessings to count. And yes, my poor fallen tongue is still given to complaint, but I just feel such a sense of calling to be better at counting my blessings than numbering my complaints. So I'm thankful that I stumbled across this reminder yesterday afternoon, and I couldn't wait to share it today.